And this here is Steve Edwards, and we're here to walk you through the carnival that has come into town called the Mule and Donkey Show. It is all about answering mule and donkey questions, and we're super glad that you are here today. If this is your first time ever joining us, a very special November 29th welcome to you. We're so glad that you are choosing to spend a little bit of your time with us. If you're watching on the replay, we're so glad that you're here with us as well, spending a little bit of time with us, and we're super excited for the next little bit. Let me tell you the way that this works. We get together every Tuesday and we answer mule and donkey questions. I've got a collection of questions that have come in over the course of the last week or so, and then you watching today, you guide us with exactly what you would like to talk about. What are you working on? And what would you like help with? And so that's how it works. So there's really only three things that we ask. Number one, you share your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather is like. Number two, ask any and every mule and donkey question that you've got. And number three, share the broadcast. And sharing the broadcast is real easy. If you're on YouTube, you click the like button, you subscribe to the channel, and then you click the share and email it or text message it or Facebook it or WhatsApp it or Reddit or Twitter it or Instagram it, whatever the thing is that you want to use, because we've got a lot of them today. You go ahead and do that. And then if you're on Facebook, it's even simpler. You can just type @ and then type the person's name in the comment section and they'll find it that way, or you can share it directly to your page. Steve Edwards, how have things been going since since the last 2 weeks? You had some family matters to attend to last week, and so it's been 2 weeks since we've been live.
Yeah, and still dealing with the family matters. My wife had some minor surgery. She had cancer 7 years ago, and she had some minor surgery, and so we've been dealing with that, and of course having to go back and forth to the hospital and stuff, and then taking care of her here as well. So it's been pretty interesting. And then yesterday, I found out I got two vertebrae out of place in my back, and that's why my right leg bothers me so much. So, hey, you know what? Life goes on. We're going to have fun anyway.
We're going to have fun anyway. It's not from all the kickboxing and the cage fighting you've been doing, is it?
Yeah, no, it hasn't been any of that. Matter of fact, I haven't even thought about that in a while. Anyway, another story.
Very good. Well, hey, if you're watching, put your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather's like in the comment section. We want to say hello to you, and go ahead and get them mule and donkey questions in. We've got Dave O'Brien watching from East Texas, where it is sunny and beautiful. Sue Callahan says, "Hi, Steve and Dave. Chilly but sunny here in Kingman." And that's the way it works in Arizona. It gets chilly, but it's sunny. And what I tell the folks who are wondering what is winter like in Arizona, I said, well, if you're in the shade, it's cold. And if you're in the sun, it's warm. That's pretty much how it goes. It's really, really nice. Aim for the shade.
Did I tell you how I do the weather?
No, no.
I look at my mule's tail. Yeah, if it's dry, it's going to be a sunny day. If it's wet, it's going to be a rainy day. If it's moving back and forth, it's going to be a windy day. If it's standing straight up and down, it's not a day to ride.
There you go. All right, boys and girls, tune in for more of that from Steve Edward. All hour, folks. Hey, and you know what? Not just all hour today, but this evening, we've actually got a very special program, and I'm going to put that in the comment section. Steve, what are we going to be talking about tonight?
We're going to talk about how important it is to do your work out of the saddle. You don't need a saddle to communicate. And so I'm going to be talking about that. Folks, I can't tell you how many people just every month that call me that have got problems with their mules, or that call me and said, I wish I'd have listened to you before I climbed in the saddle. When you get an ER visit, it's not a very nice thing. So hopefully I can reach a bunch of people and teach you how to, with this, since it's not completely riding weather, but teach you how to use proper communication skills so that come this spring, you go to ride, that mule knows what you're going to do. You don't need to ride to keep a foundation on this mule. You don't need a ride to put a foundation on. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to help you with that.
I just put a link in the comments section. The event's free, and even if you can't attend live, that's okay. About 2 to 3 hours after the event is over, we're going to be sending out an email that has a link to where you can watch the replay. So it's a great opportunity to get some direction and some prescription for how your winter training program ought to look, especially because you're not able to get out there and ride and build on a lot of the progress that you've made in the saddle. You want to be able to continue to make progress, not just retain what you've done, but continue to make progress. And well, the ground is a great place to do it, but you need to know exactly where to spend that time, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Heather is watching from Vail, Arizona. Sunny and beautiful as usual. So incredibly grateful for the come along hitch, aren't we all? Sandy is watching from a chilly 60 degrees in Southern California. Cowboy Ken coming to us from Connecticut, where it's 37 and cloudy. Chris from Corvallis, Montana, sunny with snow covering the valley. And Richard Pitts, East Texas, warmer and humid, he says. And let's get right into today's first question. This one comes in from Todd. Todd says, I bought your Martingale and followed your instructions to try and get my mule to carry the bit on top of her tongue, and she still fights it and puts her tongue over the top of the bit. I hang the bit low enough that it bumps her front teeth, and she continues to fight it. And she paws a lot, and she moves the bit on top of her tongue and far enough back that she grinds her teeth on it and then manages to get her tongue back on top of the bit. I've tried this 2 days in a row for about an hour each day. What should I do? What would you say here to Todd, Steve?
Okay, yeah, I've talked to Todd several times. Now, Todd's got a 12-year-old mule, and you hear this? 2 days he's tried it. Wait a minute. You got a 12-year-old mule that's been carrying a bit for probably 10 years, and you're going to try to get it fixed with just a couple times? No. Folks, be patient. Like I told Todd, kick back, put the mule out there in the round pen, leave him alone. Let him work on it. He's been 10 years with all kinds of the wrong bits. And you cannot fix it overnight. The other thing I told him too, the other thing is really important, and that is to make sure you get your teeth floated. Really important. But don't expect to put the bit in the mouth and go, okay, abracadabra, Steve Edwards says it's fixed. No. Time. Yes. The good thing about it, listen to what she said. Put it back in his mouth and grind. Good. He put it back in his mouth and he grind on it. See, he's trying to find a way to get comfortable. Allow him to spend time. Now, I told Todd, you got 6 months ahead of you, partner. You got 6 months ahead of you. You got all these horse bits and you got all these different people using all different things. And there's no telling how many people have gone through Todd's mule anyway. But you got 10 years, folks. You can't expect to have it fixed in 10 days. You're lucky you can get it fixed in 6 months. But be quiet, be patient. Number one, get the teeth floated. Number two, and the other thing he didn't do, he didn't put the Surcingle on. I'm going to talk a lot about Surcingle. Dave's going to have a bunch of video, and we're going to look at Surcingles. We're going to look at adjusting a rope halter. We're going to be looking at the Surcingle. We're going to be looking at the come along hitch as well, and the Martingale. So Dave's going to have a bunch of video of this stuff so that I can explain it as I'm talking about it. Here's the other thing. He says he did it as I told him. No, he didn't. He didn't have a Surcingle. He didn't. I said, what'd you do? He said, I put it on the mule's mouth and let him go. Well, you can't do that. You're doing it like everybody else. Folks, I don't do things like everybody else. Okay? I don't. I spent a lot of hours trying to figure out why. So put the Surcingle on first, Todd, which is what he's going to do. Put the breeching on the back, Todd, which is what he's going to do. Wait a minute. Why breeching? Why breeching? Because if you don't put a breeching on, when the reins are tied to the Surcingle, he pulls and roots ahead to try to get the control of the bit. He's going to be able to pull the Surcingle ahead, and it's loose. Now it's not going to teach him anything. So you see, folks, watch the video. I told him, watch the video. And he says, I done it all. No, you didn't. You didn't put a Surcingle on. So listen, folks, if you got questions, call me. Just do it as I show you. I'm the only one out there that says, here, take this bit. All right, here's the instructions. Take this saddle. Here's the instructions. You can't get that from nobody else. All they're going to do is sell you a saddle, sell you a bit. No, I want you to have a comfortable mule, but I want you to be able to learn how to make him comfortable.
Very good. Awesome. Thanks so much, Steve. Great question, Todd. Moving right along, Virginia is here. Hi, Steve and Dave. Virginia from windy but sunny Santa Fe. Sherman Johnson here, Norman, Oklahoma, 58 degrees and dropping with this cold front rolling in, trying to outsmart these white-tailed deer. Steve knows a thing or two about that. 45 degrees in Pennsylvania for Mr. Bazile. We've got Brady watching from Delta, Colorado, where it is cold and breezy. Virginia says, amen, Steve. Time, after almost 7 months on the ground, and now that I'm moving into the saddle, I actually miss the groundwork. So awesome to have you guys here. And if you are just joining us, we'd love to know that you're watching too. Go ahead, put your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather's like in the comments section so that we can say hello to you. And if you got any questions, go ahead and answer those. And speaking of questions, I've got a question here. This one's coming in from Adam. Adam is asking a question about saddles, and he says, Steve, what exactly are the differences between the Cowboy and the Heritage saddle? Are the cantles heights the same? I like a high cantle and a good wide pommel. Is one of these better than the other in this regard? What do you expect on shipping times? So, Steve, what are you expecting on shipping times? And then what's the difference between the Cowboy and the Heritage?
Okay, we pretty much have most of these saddles in stock unless you got something you want to have done different. Otherwise, we pretty much have every saddle we need to have in stock. That's one thing. The Cowboy is the Heritage. It's just that the Heritage has some extra things. It's got some barbed wire stamping on it. It has rawhide across the cantle. It has rawhide on the horn. And the reason there's rawhide is this: when you're roping back in the old days, rawhide was actually tougher, was better quality to take abuse than the leather. And so they used it on the front of the horn, and they used it across the cantle, across the back, so that when you're roping and you're dragging a calf, you're looking back, dragging a calf, that rope goes across the cantle and keeps it from burning the saddle. So there's no difference between them as far as they're both Cowboys. It's just that one has a little extra, I'm gonna call it gingerbread to it. It's got the barbed wire stamping and it's got the rawhide trim. All the same trees, folks. My trees in my saddles, I use the same tree on every saddle, exact same tree. It's been proven. It's not like any other mule saddle out there, any other mule tree. It's only my mule tree. You cannot buy my tree. I do not sell it. And it's not just the tree. It's how the saddle is designed around the tree. So to answer your question, it's just a little fancier Cowboy. And hey, my come along coffee's ready. I'm going to go
Get that coffee. And I'll tell you what, y'all, there is a lot of work that goes into this saddle. Matter of fact, a few years ago, we merged the technology that came with the polypropylene saddle tree that we had used for so many years, and the durability and the history and all of the things that we loved about a wood saddle. We merged those two together to create today's modern day Steve Edwards tree. And so what you're getting is you're getting that fine craftsmanship of a wood tree with a fiberglass coating that just weatherproofs the heck out of this thing, and you don't get that dry rot, and you don't get a lot of the cracking and a lot of the issues that you're going to see with these old saddles that have been built on wood. When you pull that cowhide off of it, and you look and you just see that it's just beat to you know what. That's not what we're doing here. We're doing something completely different. But it was not an overnight thing. Number one, it was 40, 50 years in the making of learning about equine and learning about the mule, learning about the differences between the mule, donkey, and the horse. That's number one. It's those years. Number two, it was trial and error. It was trying all sorts of different fits, all sorts of different makes, all sorts of different models, and then realizing that nothing out there quite suited the bone structure of the animal, of the donkey bone structure. Number three, it has evolved over time. So, one thing you'll notice if you see an old Steve Edwards saddle, you're going to see some differences between an old Steve Edwards saddle and a new Steve Edwards saddle. And that's because we're always learning. We don't come up with something and say, okay, there, no, down, done, finished. It's good. No, we're always learning and we're always finding new ways to do things that better suit you and more importantly, better suit the bone structure and the way that the animal was designed. So that's the fourth or fifth thing. Lastly, when Steve was putting this thing together, I can't tell you how many trips he made down to the Andrada Ranch and put the different prototype frames, prototype trees on the backs of mules that were 17 all the way down to 13 hands high, fat mules, skinny mules, all sorts of different shapes, sizes, everything that you could want down there on the Andrada Ranch. And together over, I don't know, it was probably 18, 24, maybe even longer months, putting something together that we would finally feel good about putting the Steve Edwards Concho logo branding on there. And we do, and folks love it. So, fantastic saddle, highly recommend it, but not because I recommend it, because the people recommend it. Going back here, Virginia is watching, and she actually has one of our questions today. So, Steve, I've got some pictures here that we're going to bring up. And so Virginia says, here are some pics. How I tacked up my mule. All Steve Edwards tack. Of course, she says. Does it all look correctly adjusted on Edie? I couldn't resist sending a glamour pic of her too. We'll get to that glamour pic in a minute here. So I've got 4 different photos here to show you, Steve. Take a look and let me know when you want me to move on.
Okay, let's hold it right here, right now. Right now, this is really awesome. She's got the saddle pretty much in the same place as it should be. That's what it should be. The cinches are almost exactly where they should be. They could go, actually can go ahead about an inch, but not bad. I mean, she did a wonderful job. Now, the first thing I look at is I see the fenders have not been twisted and turned and a PVC pipe through the stirrups. You got to do that. When they're flat like that, it's very difficult on your legs and back to keep from getting sore, and I mean sore. So take those fenders, twist them up, put a stake through them, and let them set overnight, and then go ride the next day. That's really important. Here's the other thing. She did really great with the breeching. Notice the hip plate up on top of the hip. That's the plate where it comes right off of the saddle and then drops down off of the hip. It's called the hip safe. Hip safe. And then the straps coming down off, those are the quarter straps. And then the strap on the side there, that's the side strap. Now, notice how it's really nice angle all the way from the side strap underneath the D-ring all the way back. Really nice, really nice. Breast collar's in the right place. I want you to notice, Dave, this is so cool. So cool. Look at this mule's nose. Notice, I want you all to notice now, nobody's on the saddle. Notice the reins are loose. You see that? Loose. Notice the strap between the legs, which holds the martingale into place. Notice, loose. If everything is loose like that, guess what? The mule is listening to the bit. The guy, Todd, he needs to see this picture. This is going to be the end result right here. This is perfect. Nose on the vertical, head down, loose rein. Nobody's on his back. Nobody. And notice that the bit is working. That's my martingale. And the martingale is working. That's the first thing that caught my eye. First thing that caught my eye was this mule was listening to the bit. I'd be proud to ride this mule. This mule here is willing and wanting to work with that bit. Nice. Second thing I saw was, of course, the fenders. She didn't have the safety hobble strap that goes on the fender just above where the stirrup goes. So that's really, really important. She did a great job of setting up the cinches. Beautiful job of that. Saddle pad is almost perfect right in the center where it needs to be. Nice job.
So we got from the other angle here. Does everything look kosher from this other side here?
Everything's really nice. Again, notice the reins are loose. See that? The mule is listening a bit. Look at this eye. Nice, big, quiet brown eye. Nice and gentle brown eye. Quiet. Okay. Look at this side here. Same thing. Notice how the cinches are in the same on this side as they are on the right-hand side. So your off side and your near side are both near perfect. Again, look at the mule's head down. Look at the nose on the vertical. Notice the every reins and everything is loose. Great job. Great job. Really nice. Hey, Dave, we need to have this picture on our website. Ooh,
We
what a
will get
nice
it on the
back.
website. Here's the glamour shot right there. There's your glamour shot.
Nice. Nice. That's now notice the mule's got a mane, folks. Why is it so important to have a mane? So that you can get a hold of the mane and climb on the saddle. I was just talking with a guy, him. He says, well, I got to get a halter adjusted. No, you don't. Don't mess with that halter. You're going to hear me talk about that a lot at 6 o'clock. I said, look at these old cowboys when they pull up the hitch and rail on Grit. You've been watching Grit now, right?
Yeah.
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 Okay. You and your boys, and they ride up. They take their reins. They put it over the hitch and rail. You don't see them take the bridle off and put a halter on. These horses respect the bridle. The biggest problem we don't have today, Dave, is respect of the bridle because they haven't done proper ground communication. This is back when they used to use come along ropes.
All right, here. So we've got another question that come in here. This one is from one of our friends over, or actually sent through the website. Right now, my husband rides with an old second-hand Abetta saddle and loves how light it is, but it's in sad shape and it's time to update. We love the trail saddle my mother-in-law has for their mule and wondered if these saddles would also fit a 14 to 15 hand Mustang. What would be your recommendation, Steve?
My saddles will make your Mustang very unhappy. And you will be very unhappy because the Mustang's going to buck you off because he doesn't like the way the bars are sitting on his back. The rigging plates are completely different as well. I've talked to them and about the Mustang and the horse and this sort of thing. Talked to them a couple different times. Folks, my saddle does not fit horses. Fits donkeys, fits mules because of the bone structure.
So we're going to tell you all the truth, and a lot of folks who have horses, they hear the wonders of the Steve Edwards saddle, and they're like, "Well, if it does that great for a mule or donkey, I want that for my horse." And you know, you can take a horse saddle and say it's a mule saddle, doesn't make it a mule saddle. You could take a Steve Edwards saddle and say it's a horse saddle, doesn't make it a horse saddle. We're gonna give you the truth, and we're gonna tell you, and sure hope that you are able to find something that works for you. This next question comes in from Mark. Steve, any idea how to stop my mule from pawing and pushing on gates? I'm constantly repairing them. My horse barn and pasture is across the street from my house, a small little street. My mule and walker are there, and my donkey's on the side where my house is. If she sees us outside, she bangs on the gate and pushes it out. I know she wants more hay and attention, but sometimes I can't get there in the time that she wants. Then the banging starts. Any ideas? Now I'm looking for the answer here for my little 5-year-old. Same thing happens. He sees me working, he starts banging and slapping and all sorts of things. So let's figure this out here together, Mark. What do you say, Steve?
Okay, so I had one of my apprentices feed while Susan and I went off to do a clinic, and she was a new apprentice, so she didn't completely know how everything was going on. But when I come back, out of 20 mules, probably 10 of them were pawing, and when I left, there was only 2 that pawed. So here's what happened: when she started, when she come out to feed, the one mule that was new and would start to paw, she fed it first. Well, everybody saw, other mules next to her saw that if they pawed, they got food, so they pawed. The next thing you know, you have several mules over a short time pawing. Now, if they paw, I walk over with the hay, they paw, I put the hay down on the ground right there, and I don't give it to them. I walk away, okay? Get a hot wire and put around that gate, a hot wire, and then they will learn to respect that gate. Now, if it was just a matter of pawing, because they don't want to be there, that's one thing. They don't want to be there, and they want fed, and they want fed on their timing. Listen, folks, I don't feed the same time all the time. Matter of fact, here it is. Here it is. I only feed once a day. That's it. I feed them in the evening when I'm all done training, I'm all done riding. I feed them all what they need. Each mule has a separate feeding program. Each mule does. And so I will feed each mule what it would take to get them through the next day. I know the next day that some of them may be pulling a wagon. The next day, some of them may have a pack outfit on them. The next day, they may be getting shod. I know what happens the next day, so therefore, I feed them accordingly. If I'm giving them a lot of work, I'm going to add to their feed. If I'm giving them less work, I'm going to take away their feed. And pretty soon, this starts balancing out. The great thing about feeding pellets is when the pellets get wet, they swell up and the animal thinks, hey, I'm full. I'm good. I'm in good shape. Yeah, that's right. Hey, you hear me? That's what you got to do, folks. That's really important. So don't feed them all the time. And here's the other thing is if you do feed them, okay, feed the same pellet, the same feed and this sort of thing. When you change, you can colic. Now, don't just go out and start tomorrow and start feeding once a day. Don't do that. Start doing it over a little bit at a time until you start getting them used to it. The worst thing you can do to an equine is to not feed them when they're used to being fed and changing them overnight with a different feed or with a different schedule. Little by little, get them used to where you can do that. Otherwise, I'd have to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, go down and feed them their breakfast with their breakfast to be done so I can go to train because people were paying me to train. So I quit that. I mean, on the ranches, we worked at the ranches. We never just took him and fed him all day long. No. We had him in the corral. We fed him accordingly. That night and the next morning we went to work. So there you are. Put a hot wire on it.
Hot wire. That was my nickname in high school. All right. Next question here. This one comes in from Cassia. Hello from Australia. Hey, let's see here. Where is it? There we go. I have just bought 2 lovely little mules from David Scholl, still with their mums. I'm not huge on lots of gear, if I don't have to be. And I was just wondering what your thoughts are on bareback pads. Here's one with a saddle pad that goes under it, for example. Appreciate your time. What would you say about bareback pads? What are they, and then what do you say about them?
Okay, a bareback pad is basically a blanket with a strap on it to hold it into place and even stirrups. Here's the downside, folks. Those mules were never meant for us to ride on them. We weren't, okay? Because we end up putting our weight in one place and we have a spine that looks like this. And when we end up riding bareback and without a saddle or with a treeless saddle, it ends up doing this to the spine. And now we got this problem, okay? So riding bareback once in a while, you betcha, that's okay a little bit, but not every day. Not, I've been in Australia. Yeah, I was there last year. It was 2 years ago now, I guess it was, during the pandemic. Notice I said pandemic. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I don't care. I've always been outspoken. Anyway, so here's the deal. Ride with a saddle because it has bars. The bars on that saddle lay on the animal's back and help distribute the weight across the mule's back. Evenly distribute it. So, get this now, so that you don't put pressure in the wrong places. Very, very important. Okay. Now, on a 19-inch bar, which is the part that lays on the animal's back, I only want 15 inches of it touching most of the time. There are key places that you'll see in my videos that I don't want it to be touching. So, long story short, okay, don't end up like one of my clients. She said, well, I'm just going to go ahead and put the saddle on just to go for a ride, just see what that new saddle feels like. I won't bother putting the breech and the breast collar on. I hope she's listening now so she can chime in, because she ended up getting a helicopter ride to the hospital. Yeah, put the breeching on, put the breast collar. Don't be this is no time to be a minimalist, okay? Take the mules back to David's show if you're not going to try to ride them correctly with all the gear that they have to have. Now, Dave will tell you, he's been with me. He's been here to Arizona. Him and that cute little wife of his, it's really, really important that you understand. And Dave understood. He went riding. He's seen, okay? Okay. Di is her name, by the way. Great couple. Love them. I spent time with them. They were great. Anyway, long story short, listen to what David has to say. Look at all my videos. I got 450 videos or so out there that talk a lot about do's and don'ts. If you do have a lot of good insurance policy, it's not going to help you because you ain't going to be able to ride because you're going to be so sore from getting bucked off. So get your saddle, get your breeching, get your breast collar, get your cinches, and get your tail out there on the ride and go have fun.
Y'all can find our YouTube channel here, YouTube channel. Now, if you're on YouTube right now, you just go ahead and click subscribe, and as we get more videos coming out, you'll get notifications, and they're great videos. You'll really enjoy them. And if you're not on YouTube right now, you can click that link, and you can go ahead and subscribe, come right back on here, and would love to have you over there. It would be so great to know that as soon as we publish a video, folks are getting good help from that video. Let's hop back over into today's chat, and let's see, we've got Tamar here watching from Elora, Queensland, Australia. Overcast and windy here. I'm loving my baby mule who just arrived over a week ago. We've got let's see, Miss or Mr. Skippa King in sunny 82 degrees with an easy breeze, Central Texas. We've got Craig in El Reno, Oklahoma, windy and getting colder. Sandy, my mule has been working nicely in a Hackamore. Broke to a Hackamore from the people I got her from. Do you still recommend Surcingle work Surcingle work for mules and Hackamores? Maybe ground work with a bit. First, Steve, what is a Hackamore? And then do you recommend Surcingle work for mules in Hackamores?
I'll have a Hackamore with me and a Bozales as well. Matter of fact, Dave, I can leave real quick and go in my office and come back with a Hackamore. Okay, now a Hackamore is a big word. It can mean several things. Okay, I like to see a picture of it. Number one, no mule. Nah. Hear me, listen well. No mule should be started in a Hackamore. A mule should be started in groundwork using the come-along rope, using adjusted rope halter, going to my mule rider's martingale into the finish bit, and only use the. I'm assuming she's thinking mechanical Hackamore, okay? Because there's a big difference between a Hackamore Bozal and a Hackamore that's mechanical. So she shoot me a picture. One day you're gonna think, oh, I ain't gonna listen to Steve. This been broke to a Hackamore. It's gonna do this fine. And one day when that mule takes off and you can't stop it, yeah, it's coming. It's not a matter of how, it's a matter of when, and it will happen. Mules are more sensitive about their nose, folks. This is why. Mules are more sensitive about their nose. And since they are sensitive about their nose, that constant pressure on that nose, it creates a problem. Now, here's the thing. Most people don't realize that when you're using a mechanical Hackamore, just like when you start doing come-along work and adjusting the rope halter, it needs to be moved up and down the nose so that we don't make the nose sore in one place. In the very beginning, I would not use a mechanical Hackamore to build a foundation. I would use a Bozales. And as soon as we go back to Dave, I'll grab my Bozal and let you see it. And I'll also show it tonight when we have our program, Dave.
So tonight, while Steve's getting that, tonight we're going to be doing a live free event. So this event is free every single Tuesday. We come together, we talk about mules and donkeys. The difference between this event that we do each week and tonight's event, this event is steered by you guys. You have things that you want to ask questions about. You've been working hard trying to get results, and so the program is guided by what your questions are. Tonight, it's all about something that Steve is really honed in on. And he's been talking to folks on the phone, been giving out direction and insight. And so we want to bring that to you. And so here, what are we looking at, Steve?
This right here is a hackamore. It's one of the names. Bozal, means noseband in Spanish. This is the true hackamore. It's rawhide covered, usually has a rawhide core on the inside. This particular one has, Nick West made it several years ago. This was his last hackamore he made. He was one of the old guys that taught me how to use hackamores. Now, folks, there's a big difference. Very few people knows how to use these days. Very few. You listen to Al Dunning. He's got a great book on hackamores. Great book. But he'll tell you in there, very few people are using hackamores correctly or even use them. There was a time, Dave, when I would go into show ring with a hackamore on a horse. Yeah, they use them on horses. And they tell me get out because they said that hackamore is too tough on them, too rough on them to be able to show correctly. Yeah. Now today they got a whole training program. I mean, a whole show program on people that are showing with bozales. Okay, and here it is, completely handmade, everything rawhide. You know, it's the last hackamore that Nick made. This is one of the reins that he made. You know, one of the ends. And yes, this is. I have many of his hackamores that I used on my mules. Now, let me finish this. Let me go on. This is really important. All the mules I've trained over the years, I've only had less than a half a dozen that were good enough to be consistent in a hackamore. I can take one look at your mule, like I looked at that other mule with a martingale on it. I can take one look at your mule and tell you what's going to happen with the way the hackamore is set. It's really important. Bozales or hackamore is a wonderful tool, but it should be used limitedly. If you have a mule that you're riding with a hackamore on, listen to me well. If you're riding with a hackamore, you should be riding 80% off your legs, 20% off your hands. Because when you start making that mule's nose sore, you're going to have a very unhappy mule. Mules care about their nose. They don't care much about their mouth. So the way I do it is I do my groundwork with the come along rope. We're going to talk about tonight. Minimal use of the rope halter, but we're going to show you with a Surcingle how a rope halter is used in there. And then a mule rider's martingale. And the reason for it, okay, is very, very important. You're building a foundation. Dave, I can't tell you how many people this year, and I'm going to be very liberal with this number, but I'm going to say 98% of them that have called me have bought broke mules, trained mules, and can't stop them, can't turn them, and are having problems.
Yeah.
Okay. And the biggest reason, they're only looking at the riding aspects. You take these mules, folks, and over the wintertime, you do what I'm going to tell you about tonight. You do what I tell you about tonight. You're going to have a whole different mule during the spring. You're going to think you got power steering. I'm telling you, all you got to do is think, go to the right, and that mule will go to the right. Okay? I mean, it's great. That hackamore I just showed you, that's the story behind that. Is Nick West taught me how to ride with a hackamore. He was in Canada. So, folks, I would go to Canada. You hear this? I would go to Canada to learn from this man. He was the guru of gurus when it comes to to the hackamores. Okay? He knew how to make a hackamore horse. He knew it. Okay? Now, tonight, I'm going to show you a book by Al Dunning. By the way, Al Dunning, 28-time world champion. You open up a quarter horse book on rules, you're going to see Al Dunning probably wrote that book. Personal friend of mine, great man of God, loves Jesus, the whole bit. But anyway, this show coming up, folks, here in a couple hours, you need to be there. Okay?
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a good time. Very enjoyable. We've got Wayne here watching from Georgia, mid-70s today. Supposed to storm tonight. A little late to the table today, but I guess better late than never. And hey, Wayne, I want to tell you, I have not forgotten about you. I've been in contact with PayPal. I'm trying to figure out what the issue is with the PayPal. So just FYI, with the long weekend, there's a little bit of space in there, but we're still looking at it. So thank you for hanging out with us today. Virginia says, Steve, you made my day. All your compliments are due to your training. Hey, you know what though, Virginia? No way. You could get some Yahoo who will sit down and listen to Steve all day long and decide not to do it. And that's okay. That's fine. They can go do something else. You had the wisdom not only to sit down, listen, and learn. You've been coming to these programs for a long time, Virginia. We know it. To listen, learn, get out there, put in the hard work, do what was best by your animal, and that's no small thing. If I want to learn anything, I can pick up a book and I can start reading it. It's the wise person who takes what it is they consume and actually go in and start to apply it and look for it to make a change in their life. The fool just takes the book and says, "You know what? That's okay. I know everything I need to know." So no, there's a lot of compliment due to your way too, Virginia. So that's good. Heather says, "I'm having luck with manners and leading." Is she talking about her husband or a mule? I know that I'm just getting barely started. Mule. My yearling mule is so much happier now that she is obeying. At what age do I move toward the surcingle and britching and bit Martingale? That was from Heather.
Now, Yearling Mule, put that surcingle on now. Put that rope halter on his nose that's properly adjusted, and put that breeching on and do it now. Okay? That's actually the first saddling, guys. That's the first saddling. You're not going to pull that cinch up tight. You don't have to with a surcingle. You do not have to pull it up tight. You can be loose. But when you do your ground foundation with the come along rope, and the mule is doing everything like you see in the video, going around in circles, doing figure eights, stopping, backing up. Everything is nice and quiet. And key thing, did you remember the mule that I said? We just look at the saddle and the martingale on it. Look at the big brown eye. Quiet, relaxed, head down. I understand. That's all really important. Okay. Now, yeah, there's her without the martingale. Now look, see the difference? How the head is down. See how the reins are loose? Yeah, look at that big quiet eye. That's a big happy eye. I'm happy. Look at that. That is what you're looking for, folks. When you're riding, I want you to watch around. You're going to these rides, see how many mules look like that. That right there is perfection. That right there is a mule that says, I'm listening. I'll do what you want. How are we going to go? That's the kind of mule that you want to be doing. And every one of you, come spring, you should have a mule that looks like that. There is your go-to, what it looks like. That's what it's going to look like.
All right, continuing on here. Rory says, dang it, late again. Thought it was a go at 6. Rory here, Southwest Ohio. Nice day. Should have been riding. You know what, Rory? We're glad that you're here. Better late than never. And today you got a chance of double dose of Steve Edwards if you want to join us for tonight's Training Without a Saddle program. I'll put a link in the comment section here in a second. Naomi says, greetings. Naomi and Butch in eastern Washington, where it's 29 degrees and snowing. Snow on the range. Barbara from Sullivan, Missouri, 61 degrees now, but temp is dropping tonight. We've got Virginia. Just so everyone knows, Edie is my first mule. And I started following Steve's advice from purchasing her to training her to where she is now. Hallelujah, Steve. I heed his words. It works. Oh, my goodness. Steve, does that hat still fit?
Yeah, it's getting tight. I have to get it. I can't get it. I'll
Oh, that's
eventually get it.
good. We'll have to do a hat change before the next program. Jim is watching
There
from
you go.
Western Maryland, where it's 42 degrees, misty rain. Trace is watching from Queensland, Australia, and when Trace is here, you know that means we've gone international again. It's overcast here today, making it a bit cooler. 73.4. Trace says you need a proper mule saddle with a breast collar and breechin and a proper saddle pad to suit. Steve has all the right gear and ships worldwide. Trace will get you that $20 here as soon as we're done. Rose is watching. Hey guys. Barbara says that was me. Life flight to a hospital after going down a hill with no britchin, and the saddle slid over my mule's
Gosh.
neck. My mule was perfect and just stood there, but I was busted up. I will never ride without my britchin again. Folks think that you can ride without a britchin, and they say, well, I'm just going on flat ground, or they say I'm using a crooper. Nope, can't do it. You've got to do the britchin because you got to respect the differences of the animal. Stacy, it's 22 and sunny in Colorado. Got a little bit of snow last night. Sandy says yes, mechanical. Tamar says, replying to Trace, I'm very happy with all my Steve Edwards tack. Looking forward to using it all on my mule when he's old enough. Sandy says, thank you so much for that. Hey, speak of the devil and he shall appear. David Scholl. Hey, Steve and Dave. Good to have you here, David Scholl. We was talking about you a little bit earlier, David. Richard Pitts says, oh, it is not necessary to kiss your mule like Dave said. Laughing my, oh, just kidding. There we go. Myra is watching from Southern California. Cool with hopes of rain this week. Hannah says, Denelin, Ocala, Florida, 78 degrees and sunny. Wayne says here, hey Dave, the PayPal problem seems to have fixed itself. I was able to order the Twitch. The come along rope and the Twitch are working just fine on my mules, but not so much on my wife. Okay, all right, maybe we'll have to do a special webinar for that. Marvin says, Joel Poole, Roberts, Montana, 18 and snowing. 18 years old and it's snowing there? No, 18 degrees and snowing. Lois is watching from Winterport, Maine, 28 degrees. I'm still adjusting that great rope halter to fit my new mini mule. Looking forward to winter group work with them. And hey, folks, yes, the rope halter will fit the mini mule. When you need the rope halter, you're going to have to adjust it down. And so there's going to be a lot of extra slack and you're going to feel like, gosh, is this how it's supposed to look? That's the way it is with the mini mule. You got to adjust it down, especially if their head is a little bit smaller, but it will work. And the come along rope will work with the minis as well. You just may have to get down on their level to get the right leverage. Simona is watching. Hi, Stephen Dane. Rain and snow, southern Switzerland. That makes us international again. Got a question here from Robin. Robin says, hello. I recently purchased a mule, and I would like to purchase your trail riding bit. It says it's out of stock. Will you be getting more in? I was wondering the same question, Steve.
Well, we have 5.5 inches. We don't have any fives, but we do have 5.5 inches. So send me a picture. Measure the mule's mouth. And remember, folks, if it comes out at 5, that's a close fit, tight to tight. You can go a 5.5. You can do it, But if it comes out at 4 3/4, you can do a 5. So the big thing is, the big problem with mules is they got the donkey lips on them on the side. Okay, the big donkey lips. So you you cannot always go completely by the corners of the mouth. But we are going to be out of the bits until February. February the 3rd, we're supposed to start getting bits. They're really behind. And I have several hundred bits made a year, folks. And this is, I'm not the only one that's having a hard time getting some things. I do have a lot of saddles, though. Measure your mule's mouth. Call me up. Maybe send me a picture. Let's take a look.
All right. We were talking about miniatures. Speaking of miniatures, Steve, this one's from Janet. I was wondering if your training would be suitable for a miniature donkey, approximately 16 to 17 years old. He's very easy to work with, but I got him as a companion to my aging Arab gelding. Thank you. Wish I had a mule. What would you say there to Janet?
Yeah, you can use the same thing, Janet. Use your come along rope and this sort of thing. I can adjust these halters down, folks, so they'll fit a mosquito. It's just that you got to remember, it is a tool. It's not, oh, it don't look right. No, we don't care how it looks. How does it work? How does the nose get touched with the knots? How does it tighten around the bottom? Where is it setting on the pole? It don't make any difference if it don't look right. If the strap where you tie it off on the side is 10 inches long, it don't make any difference. What makes a difference is it working? Okay. Now, I'm going to talk about it tonight. I'm going to talk about halters and how I don't want you to use them. I'm going to talk about when you can use them. All right. And I'm going to help you out. Now, some of the people that you mentioned in there, the lady said that it was a mechanical hackamore. A mechanical hackamore should never, ever, 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 ever be used to start a mule. Okay. Too much leverage. It makes their nose incorrect, makes them hard to steer, and this sort of thing. Uh, now, this person could be maybe just a super duper wonder, and you're riding 80% off your legs. That's one thing. But most mechanical hackamores are not made right. That's why, like everything else I got, I spent time to design it so that it's my design, how it makes the mule work correctly. And a mechanical hackamore, basically, you can adjust it so that it goes up and down the head, and it has long shanks on it. And I'll bring one of mine to show, Dave.
Very good. Next question here. This one comes in from Keith. I've been watching you for several years, even before you started your show, and I've enjoyed your tapes every time I watch them. That's how you know he's not lying. He says tapes every time you watch them. You've taught me a great deal about training my mule, much more than I have taught him. I've been using the come along method, and it has been very effective with my mule in getting him to stand still and centered without tying. I'm having a problem getting the hitch to stay centered under his chin without slipping to one side. Any suggestions? What's the size of your rope on the come along? Mine is waxed but still slips around him. He says, how about coming to California for a workshop? Hey, bring us out to California for a workshop there, Keith. What would you say to Keith about this come along rope slipping?
Okay, so folks, you always want to keep it waxed. You can get some paraffin wax. You can take a leather glove and you can go up and down the rope and re-wax it, get it good. Now, if it's slipping, it's because you're probably bumping too hard. Start using less to get more. Okay. Now, do you have to continually readjust it on the nose? Yes. Yes, even when the mule needs a tune-up, you'll still have to readjust it. It's never going to stay completely in place, but try to get to where you start bumping less and get to where you're rolling your wrist, and that's all.
All right. Let's see here. We've got Nicole listening at work, Frankfort, Kentucky, 61 in clouds. We've got Laura watching from Missouri, where it is 62 degrees there. Steve, that's all the questions that I have lined up for today, and that's all the questions that we've had come in. So, you have anything else you want to say before we're all done here?
No, we'll be good. We're going to have some videos, folks, showing you how to use a Surcingle. You're going to hear me talk about a Surcingle more than anything else. Okay, Surcingle is important. I'm going to show you a mechanical hackamore. I'm going to show you a finish bit. I'm going to show you my Mule Rider's Martingale. Dave is going to have videos of me working with people, actually driving people with my Mule Rider's Martingale, so you can see how good it works. Okay, you'll see me adjust a halter, and you'll see how a halter works. You'll see how the halter rolls back and forth. Anyway, you'll see me adjust it, and then you'll see the halter in action. So you're going to get to see when I say, okay, now we're going to adjust the halter. Now it's adjusted. Now here's how it works. And that's really important. That's what I try to teach all of you. I don't want to just give you the tool and say, now go figure it out. No, no. I'm showing you this is how it works. So he'll have a halter that shows how it works. We'll have the Mule Rider's Martingale. You'll see me actually using it with people and maybe a little bit with some mules. We got some different videos on equitation. And I'll talk about the come along rope as important. Okay, really, really important. So we're gonna have I'm looking forward to tonight. It's going to be a good program. I'm just going to be jabbering on, asking questions, telling you all different things. At the end, we'll have a few minutes, right, where people can maybe ask a question or so. But for the most part, it's not like right now. You're going to hear me mainly talk about how important it is. I mean, extremely important to do ground communication work. How extremely important it is to use that surcingle. It's extremely important.
Real quick, we had one more come in. Justin says, where and what kind of mule for a first purchase? How old should I get them at auction?
Okay, Justin, don't buy a mule yet. Okay, get yourself some education. It's just like folks. People say I want to buy a saddle for my mule. No, no, no. I would rather you use a come along hitch. I'd rather you spend the time on the ground before you climb in a saddle. Because I can tell you a lot of stories, just like Barbara right there. She had a helicopter ride out, not good. Okay. So, folks, I do not tell you where to go get a mule. Especially don't go to an auction and buy a mule. You don't really see what the mule's all about. You can't believe how many people will buy a mule someplace. They bought the mule in Kentucky, and now they take it over to some canyon ride place to where they sell all kinds of different mules, and they're high end. And everybody thinks I'll go there. I'm going to get a high end mule, and don't do that, folks. Don't do that. Get yourself educated. Learn when it talk about how to float teeth. Learn about that. Learn about a contracted heel. Learn about, you hear me? Learn about. We've got all these videos out there that we have on my website. We have the F-bomb free, lots of other videos out there as well that are free. Get yourself educated first. Don't go doing like a lot of my clients that I've had this year, especially this past month. They bought a mule, and this guy was, he's been on the internet. No, they da. And this mule has hurt him, not just a little bit, but a lot. So get yourself educated. It's not the mule's fault, okay, all the time. It's the idiots who sell it to you, for one thing, okay?
What was our favorite F-bomb again, Steve?
Free. Free. That's me. That's the only F-bomb you're going to hear out of Dave and I. We've got a different vocabulary, don't we, Dave? We got a different dictionary that we've learned how to speak to people. So
that's right.
Tonight, everything's free.
Free.
Everything's free, and you get to listen. Okay. Now, again, you've got my email, you've got my phone number. I am free. Okay. Now, don't pick it up and say, Steve, you told me to call you. Yes, you are now the 42nd person in line. In other words, what I'm going to do, I never, ever, ever answer the phone. I don't. Okay. If I did, every time I answer the phone, I'd never get anything done. I wouldn't get nothing ate. I wouldn't be able to say hi to my wife. You know what I'm saying? So I gather up my phone calls. I sit down and I call you back. I'll always call you back. You buy a come along rope, I'll always call you. Okay. Always. So here I am. I am here. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Don't forget about this is a time of the season where it's not about a bearded guy. It's about a guy who died for your salvation.
That's right. Real quick, Jerry says, hi, Dave and Steve. I have your Cowboy saddle and the Trail Light saddle. My wife got rid of her mule and wanted me to sell one of the saddles. I love them both, and I still have them both. Right there. Rebecca is watching from North Carolina. Glad to have you here, Rebecca. Justin's watching. All right, folks, one more time. He says, I'm keeping them both, hoping my granddaughter might want to ride a mule when she's done gaming her horse. I ride both of them. There you go. Very good. Hey, sign up. Here is the link to sign up for tonight's program. It's free. So, hey, there you go. There we go. I don't know why. I was just giggling. Like I had to take myself off the camera, and I just kind of giggled back here because I think that's so funny. It doesn't cost you anything. And even if you can't attend live, about 2 to 3 hours after the event, we're going to send out an email with a link to watch the replay. So as soon as the program's over, it'll be about 2 to 3 hours, and then an email will go out. You can watch that on your own time. It's going to be a great program. We're going to have a lot of fun. And so do join us. It would be very, very cool to have you there. Yeah, that's it. Steve, we'll see you here in a couple hours.
Couple hours, yep.
All right. Bye, everyone.